Hello everyone, I'm very happy to participate in this event once again. Last year I was already part of the event, and I'm very happy that we can talk about what has been done in the meantime. And my name is Thomas Vollmer. I'm working at Fraunhofer IPT in Germany, located in Aachen, and working in the production technology domain. And today, since data and digitalization as well as networking of companies and company internal ones, I'm talking today about data trustees in production, which are an enabler for cross-company value creation, and which is a prerequisite for value creation networks as well. So what I would like to show you today is why are data trustees in manufacturing essential, and how could they look like? What are the challenges? What will the features be? And I would like to take you to the journey now and give you some insights into what we are talking about in the next minutes. So first of all, I'm pretty sure that you're familiar with the internal communication within a manufacturing company. So first of all, you're having manufacturing lines, which you can see on the right side. You have different processes working with machinery, and nowadays all these entities are exchanging data, are exchanging information. And of course we are having the challenge that proprietary systems have difficulties to talk to each other, so to say. But when it comes to digitalization and value creation networks, we are talking about not just internal challenges, but also about the external ones, and I will show you why. So, as you can see here, as I already introduced you to, is the internal company data flow, but we are having also on a second level, we are having the data flow from the end customer to the company and the other way around. So first of all, from the manufacturing company, imagine the provision of information, for example, of the status of the manufacturing process for the end customer to plan to plan the delivery. On the other way around, we are having feedback data that is coming from the operational phase. That's very valuable for the manufacturing company in the adjustment, in the adjustment of production processes, in the adjustment of development processes, which again have to be transferred into the production. And on a third base, we are having the company, the business to business data exchange and information exchange between the suppliers and the customer. Which is here meant as a business customer, not the end customer. And on this level, I would like to set the scope, because this faces some challenges that we are facing nowadays, and that we are addressing in research and in industrial activities. And in this case, data trustees are a solution that I would like to talk about. So what you can see here is, on the one hand, if we're talking about the manufacturing company and the end customer, we are having a C2B data trustee. And for example, we are having here the Social U company, which is a startup located in Aachen, or T-Systems. But since I would like to set the focus on the B2B network, we are talking today about solutions such as the industrial data space, also known as IDS, Gaia X as a French-German activity, and the virtual Fort Knox, which is a Fraunhofer activity. And in the next minutes, I would like to give you some insights about what is behind the industrial data space, Gaia X and virtual Fort Knox. Why are they so important? And what is the benefit of introducing data trustees to the manufacturing in the digitalized world? So first of all, if we are talking about data custodians, we are seeing that they provide additional efforts, additional value creations that we are not having when companies are not talking to each other. First of all, you can see here 5 solutions. This is just an extract of all the benefits that data custodians and data trustees introduce. But first of all, as you can see here, the collaborative condition monitoring enables us to exchange information about the status of machinery, of the processes, how they are, whether they are well established or going out of the tolerances. And only with the exchange of information between the service provider or the service providing company and the executing company, we are able to introduce the service of the condition monitoring in a collaborative way. When we're talking about the supply chains, we are creating a lot of efficiency because the interconnection and the communication about the status, about the events, makes it much more easy to react onto the current status. So for example, if we're talking about deliveries and delays in the deliveries, for example, we can take into account the information that is exchanged to react onto these issues and to reorganize our pre-planned subsequent process chain. When we are talking about the interconnection of companies, this makes it also essential to consider the manufacturing execution. So if we are considering what I presented right now with the supply chains, if there is a delay, of course we have to somehow transfer that into the manufacturing environment, and that is something that has been done in the out-of-the-box MES applications. And I think it already gets evident that if you only if you exchange the information about, for example, the delivery status, only then these information can also be introduced in the manufacturing planning. Same counts for the predictive maintenance. So the interconnection of the executing companies and also the service provider in terms of the maintenance engineer provided by another company is dependent on the information about what is currently happening in the machine, what is currently happening in the workpiece, what is currently happening in the equipment itself. And only when we are exchanging these data to the service provider via for example, the data trustee, it enables us to get this shared service. And also all these issues are combined a cross-plan and cross-company production. So if we communicate individual process steps, then we are also able to manufacture one product very efficient between several companies. So this is the idea behind that is, for example, the production manufacturing on demand, and it enables us a so-called 24/7 delivery of products. And to come to these additional features, to these additional benefits, I would like to introduce you the hypothesis that says that only the data trustees enable these forms of collaboration, which in the end enable the entire value network. And that is why, in my opinion, the data trustees gain in importance, and we have to talk about how the implementation or the introduction of data trustees in the manufacturing domain can be executed. But when we're talking about the benefits, we also have to talk about the challenges, and we also have to talk about why don't we see so many data trustees in the manufacturing environment if there are so many benefits. And what you can see here is especially a study conducted in small and medium-sized companies is that they have several fears that hinder them in exchanging data and entering a value chain creation network. And the main issues here are the data protection, the knowledge outflow, the product piracy, and the loss of control that is induced from the outside or from other companies. So just to give you an example, if I, as a customer, if I share data to a service provider, of course I'm dependent that they have a sufficient security system that makes them able to protect my data. And only if that is possible, then I will share my personal data, I will share my knowledge. And this is a prerequisite for sharing the data. And as you can see here in this study, that a lot of companies have issues and they have fear that their data is not sufficiently protected, and that hinders them in entering the value creation network in the end. So how can we deal with that? We have to address the security of the USP of each company that is a part of the individual value creation network, and only, as you can see here, 1% of the SMEs, they have the chains digitally networked, and that is due to the reasons that I just mentioned. And of course we have to increase the number here to 50, 60, 80% to make value creation networks happen. So that leads to the assumption that the data trustee is the entity that creates trust between companies, trust in terms of security of the data that is exchanged, data sovereignty, and that ensures that there is no data loss, no loss of knowledge, no loss of USPs or IP of individual companies. And only if that is the prerequisite, companies will even consider to exchange data in a value creation network. And to ensure that the trust is created between companies, the data trustee has different tasks, and I have an extract of these 6 tasks here that is starting with the governance. So the data trustee has to ensure that the governance of the data is clear, that it is clear who has the IP of the data, that the data is decentralized to make it secure, and that there is a sufficient sovereignty of the data. So everyone has to know that the data will stay in the company and that it still belongs to the company. And even if I change the data, the copyright of the data still remains in the one providing the data. Then we have also scaling, protection of confidence, and of course, which is very important as well, the security aspect. So only if I can make sure that the data is secure and that no one external one can have access to the data and steal the data, so to say, then I will be willing to change the data and provide it to someone else. And how can we address that? First of all, there are several companies, several entities and providers of so-called data trustee architectures, and I already mentioned the Gaia X, the virtual Fort Knox, and the industrial data space. But we have different entities as well working on these architectures. But even if we are having the architectures, we see that we still don't get the 100% trust of the companies for using it. And that is because we do not have an independent entity that qualifies these data trustee architectures and helps in understanding that we can trust these issues. Because as you can see here, a lot of data trustee architectures are private ones provided by companies. And of course, there are then some issues in trusting these 6 features that have to be provided by the data architecture. And how can we address that? We can address that by certification bodies. For example, the TÜV or DEKRA, that is making sure that the data trustee architectures are sure that they are secure, that they provide a sufficient sovereignty of the data, and that they are fulfilling all the requirements that are induced by the users. And that leads to the assumption that the development of these data custodians, they have to be left to the market, because in the end the market defines the features that are required, that the companies will be willing use the architectures, and but by having a quality seal, at least we can increase the exception of these architectures, that companies even consider these architectures. And without having a independent quality seal, I can imagine that a lot of companies won't even consider using these data trustee architectures. So we have to develop these, and only then we can promote the networking, and then we can benefit from the collaboration that we see in value creation networks. And that leads me to my final hypothesis, that data trustees in manufacturing are building trust. They help me exchange data, and only then I can realize and create the added value that I presented, and that is integrated, implemented in a value creation network. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you will find my contacts here, and I'm happy if you will share the presentation, and I hope that you will have a lot of additional insights in the other presentations. Thank you.